The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Yes, we were born to be alive. A little Rosie reminder, there is no song that is born to blow ourselves up and take many of us with us. You're listening to Rosie Picard on Until Now on W4CY. Those that are interested to join the chat, and today I'm talking about tragedy to triumph because, yes, in light of the recent events that have occurred in Manchester, however, it's not just recent events. You know, these are ongoing events historically. So I want a intelligent approach for us continuing that we're born to be alive. We're not born to live in fear and continue to propagate fear. So those that want to join the chat, I've got one listener already commenting, that sure was a mess. Why do people do those things? Well, that's exactly what today's topic is. And I've got to tell you, before I come on air, it was with a heavy heart because it brings back to me a lot of, for those that aren't aware, my background is in law enforcement and investigations. I've had over 16 years, as well as I've been a volunteer in Bande Aceh after the tsunami disaster that killed over 200,000 people in one fell swoop. So I've seen a lot of grief, overwhelmment and despair, not just professionally, but also personally. So this resurrects, like it will for a lot of other people, not just myself, the stuff that you've got stored. And yes, the questions that are flowing in, is it hate and anger driven, and how can people be so mean? Well, this is what I call homegrown terror. And I heard on radio earlier this morning the comment they were saying that people of low intelligence are breeding larger families. Now, again, I'm not going to enter into that debate whether that's correct or not correct. However, when we're aware that it takes a community to raise a child, we can't overlook our role in all these events that are occurring, be it right in front of our face or on the other side of the planet. We can't overlook our role because being responsible means the same thing as being powerful. Now, Trump, I heard on TV, he called them losers. And I thought that is a great term. Losers. I agree. They are losers in life, and the only thing they have to spread is more loss. Yes, they are toxic. There is nothing to gain and nothing of value achieved from that state of mind and that state of mentality. And yes, if people are living their lives, as one listener has commented, breeding more and more stupid with no common sense. I got to say, I'm an ex-cop. I've been around so much stupid in my life. I've already written 6 books, but I could keep going on and on and on and on with all the stupidity that has been confronted with me. And I see it in these families because they only know to teach what they know to do. And what they know to do is criminal. And that's what, people want to call these people terrorists. In my day, they were called criminals, and they still are. They're criminals. They are murderers. They are of the lowest form of existence on this planet, in my eyes and my opinion. And I am so glad and want to see their memory and their influence go up in smoke when they do. And that's where our power comes back in, by giving our attention and our awareness and consideration to those that are wanting to leave the world a better place, those innocents, that their gift to the world is a gift of love. Their memory is what we speak about, what we talk about on social media, how wonderful those individuals are, and not a word about those criminals. Criminals make money. Look at our televisions. It's all about dramas, cops and robbers. Somehow the robbers, the killers, the murderers are making so much money in these programs. It is just astounding to me that we give that attention and influence to those that are the worst amongst us. And again, in my day, Molotov cocktails, that was what I would call that bomb that was made at Manchester, that was filled with nails, designed to impact and hurt as many people in a short space of time. It's the old saying, you got one hit, you make that one hit the worst hit. That was commonly used 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Those in, from Ireland and other countries, it will be nothing new to them. Hurt people hurt people. And until we understand that we as a community are aware of those that are hurting around us, we can't take better actions, because they are angry losers. Those criminals, those terrorists, whatever name you want to give to them, they're angry losers. Our jails are full of angry losers. But our position of power comes from three choices I use, and I use our words as a Rosie reminder, that we revere. What does revere mean? It means we adore, we appreciate, we accentuate, we give attention to what it is we want. What is it we want? We want peace. We want freedom. We want harmony. We want happiness. We want ease. We want well-being. There is so much that we can revere in our world around us on a daily basis. And yes, scaremongering is being used and fostered through the media, through social media. Part of it is not meant to be scaremongering. It's meant to make people aware of what's around them, aware of points of difference, aware of things that are out of order, out of natural sequence, so that way we can be alerted that there is something different, and to make a choice or an action that can minimise or mitigate any potential danger. It doesn't mean live our lives on high alert all the time. It's just an awareness. When I was trained as a specialist investigator, training security specialists, the first thing that we instructed every person is every room you come into, be aware, where is the entry point, where is the exit point? Does the door push out? Does it push in? Is it a self-locking door? Simple points of awareness, so that you've got that filed as reference in your mind, should there be the advent of an emergency situation or something that is traumatic or difficult, that you need to act instantaneously. Now, in training security specialists, the worst thing that can happen is people, A, not get information quickly about what's going on, and B, not be given information on what to do and how to help minimise further trauma. And most of that trauma occurs through stampedes. It occurs through that fight, flight, freeze response that happens immediately, when we've had the bejesus just knocked out of us. Now, those people in any environment, in any situation that is highly traumatic and sudden, that instant response to flee overrides all common sense. So that's where they are clambering over the top of people. And, we've seen it in soccer stadiums where people have been trampled to death. We've seen it in fires. We've seen it in lots of other situations that didn't have a criminal aspect at the outset. So if we start to become just alert in our own lives and aware in our own lives, because that's what we're here doing. We are born to be alive ourselves. We are born to be aware ourselves. We're born to be alert ourselves. So just pay attention to your environment. And there's this couples in with my talking about on the mobile phones, the amount of people that are unaware of everything going on around them because their head's stuck down in social media. Well, that whilst there's a real world that's happening around you, these actions that have shaken us to our core and rattled us so, they work to remind us of what is it we value in our lives. What is it the most important? Well, it's another alert. It's another wake-up call. Am I truly living my life? Because all of us know we are going to die. That's a guarantee. That's a given. We don't plan for our children to die. It happens every day. We don't plan for elderly to suffer injustice and die. Happens every day. It happens every day. The difference is, if you've faced it within your own life and come to terms with it, you are much better equipped at times of emergency. You have a level of preparedness. And that doesn't mean inviting it in. It means becoming alert and aware. Are you living your life on point the way that you want it to be? Or is your life being lived by you that it is of no use and no value? And that's for those that have got a criminal agenda, because their life is being usurped. That's why they are losers, because they don't have life. They are disengaged. They're often uninvolved. They're often despised, and they feel futile. And it's that type of mental state that they act only on what they know. They seek, like everybody else walking the planet, they seek a path of engagement. They seek a path of involvement, of appreciation, and of having a purpose in life. Except for them, it's in all unwanted aspects or in a negative capacity. They're the ones that are joining, gangs. They're recruited into cults. They're easily influenced into acts of terrorism, because here's somewhere where they've found that engagement, that involvement, that appreciation, and that purpose. So for us, as listeners have asked, can we really help, and how do we prioritise life? Yes, we really do help. Our life is our legacy. Our life is that limited influence that we have access to immediately. What is it you value most? I shared a post on Facebook the other day. Someone sent me a beautiful, how you hold with your hands the heart image, and they had beautiful golden light radiating out from it, and said, be filled with love. And I thought, well, humans are filled with it. But what is your it you're filling yourself with? Now, if you're filled with hate, that's what you've got to give out. If you're filled with anger, that's what you've got to give out. If you are filled with injustice, that's what you've got to give out. This is no rocket science here. If you are filled with sadness, there is no joy being given out from you. So we prioritize our life by knowing what is the wanted state. First and foremost, if that wanted state is peace, then how can we be in conflict? The two don't go together. If that wanted state is harmony, disharmony doesn't go in either. It is a contradiction. How do we find the harmony? We speak more of, we select and surround ourselves with more of what that wanted state is. The wanted state is whatever value you determine for your life. For myself, I determine I want peace, I want freedom, I want harmony, and I want ease. They are the important values within my life. Obviously, together with love, because all human beings generally on the planet want love. So are my actions then consistent with peace? Are they consistent with harmony? Are they consistent with freedom? Because I tell you what, if I'm yelling and angry and full of rage at another individual, be that person a shop attendant, be that person a partner, be that person a child, be that person, in authority, it's irrespective who that person is. I'm revealing what I'm full of. That's my it. I'm full of anger, I'm full of rage, and I'm selecting the pathway for it. Now, this is a planet populated by a lot of people. There is no one-size-fits-all approach, and we've got to get over that notion that, hey, I'm doing right, why aren't you doing right? Because, again, that's creating hostility. That's creating injustice. And some people go, oh, Rosie, does that mean we've got to sit by and do nothing while these other people think it's perfectly okay to do terrible things? No, we are not doing nothing. What we are doing is our actions are aligned with what we're for. We are doing all the actions that support peace. If I want peace, I develop empathy with another person. I find a means to communicate with another person to understand their mindset. I may never understand their mindset. Remember, I'm a woman who's sat opposite many murderers, many mass rapists. I've sat opposite some of the most vile individuals and spoken with them. And you know what? If they presented as the monsters and the murderers, we could recognize them immediately. But they don't. This is everyday, ordinary people that at many times have had that brain snap. There's my technical term for it. We all know what a brain snap is. We lose it. We're all human beings. That's why they're called losers. They've lost it. And the only way that they can be helped back to getting it is by being engaged, by being involved, by being appreciated and having a purpose, but towards a direction that is wanted as opposed to a direction that is unwanted. We name what is wanted and what is unwanted. We are the change makers. Our every action and every single thought is building that pathway. That's how we choose to do something. So revere what we want. That is, identify what your values are and pay attention to them in every single moment that you can. Remember is our other point for our position of power. Remember the love, not the hate. We can remember the hate as much as we want, and we are destined to repeat that mistake. That's all remembering the hate does. It keeps it active within us. If we remember the love, instead, we are activating a whole other frequency that overcomes or comes up over the lower states. The lower states are the loser states. The lower states are full of it that we don't want. So how do we remember the love? We remember all those victims, those beautiful faces that are shown to us. Remember from a spiritual perspective, we can empower ourselves with the thoughts that they've come here for a finite time to give us a gift, to remember that we are infinite beings, to remember that we are love, to remember that every action we take does matter, however small. Now, the wonderful part of each one of these individuals is remembering the beauty that they shared, remembering the kindness that they share, remembering all the opportunities that they had for whatever period of time that they were here on this planet. Accentuate, admire, give attention to all of that in the social media, not these moron losers that are murderous and callous and heartless. No attention to them. That's a drip feed, because as they get no attention, and I can tell you, having been in the prison system, how many heartless individuals I've spoken to that have committed actions only for the attention that it got them. So let's dry up that source. Let's give no drip feed to that action. That is unwanted. We choose our direction. Wanted, are we paving a path to that? Or unwanted, are we paving a path to that? So we've got to give attention somewhere, and that's the one we're feeding. That's the one we're growing. So give our attention to the most important. The third strategy of my Rosie reminder list of revering and remembering is to reactivate. Reactivate means that we are going to do something. We have got actions that we're committed to, but those actions are in alignment with our values. Those actions are of peace. Those actions are of harmony. Those actions are of freedom. Those actions are of community. Those actions are of compassion, of love. They're active kindness. And if you can't be kind, choose not to be harmful. So, as one listener has commented, attention is attention. So even negative is attention. So that is why people act out at times. It most certainly is. You know, we need to feel how we exist at times. We need to feel that we have a purpose. We need to feel that we're involved in this life. And that's why I said, you know, these people are often disengaged, uninvolved, and feeling despised and having no purpose. So as soon as they find one, even though it's a negative purpose and a harmful purpose, it to them feels as if now they have a life, that they have a life worth living, except they're on a pathway that's negative. Our purpose is to interact, is to take an opportunity to interrupt with our interaction, is to interrupt what they're doing. And we interrupt, it's like kill them with kindness. You know, we learn from those we're around. And as we discover how there is harmony, as we discover how there is happiness, as we discover how there is inclusion instead of exclusion, we invite them into the fold. You know it when you went to school. All of us have had it at times where we've been bullied, we've been ostracized, we've been made to feel the outsider. You know how lonely that feels, how lousy that feels, how horrible and hurtful that feels. People act out from that state of pain. You know, these people blowing other people up, they're not doing it because they're actually crazy. They're doing it because they're out of their mind with such hurt and such angst. And thanks to social media today, we are responsible. Because those losers, they're not that smart, but they can access online. And what they access online is much information that is available by other hurt, disengaged, disenfranchised, often very young individuals that are suggesting ideas of how to harm people. They've got ideas of how to use vehicles, how to use crowds, how to make bombs, how to get away with murder. You know, we have how-tos up to our gazoo, you know. So those losers, they have access to all of this instantly. That's the difference of our modern world today as opposed to going back to, 30 years ago when I was actively policing. That's the difference, is that their range of influence was more limited to locally. That range of influence now has extended. On the flip side, it's extended positively as well. So now take this opportunity to reactivate and revere and remember from the pathway that you choose to pave from to today, that pathway towards more of what is wanted. Now, for me, more of what I want is that peace, that ease, that freedom, and that harmony within humanity. You know, we all experience pain. We all experience hurt. You know, people get angry. People experience injustice. You know, for some, that's their day in, day out life routine. For some, those thoughts on life become unbearable. But that never gives permission or makes it acceptable to act out from that state. And that's why I keep using that term losers. That's why, on this point, I do agree with Donald Trump. They are losers. I won't raise their status to that of a terrorist because they are not introducing terror into my life. I am an activist for myself, and I reactivate in myself my awareness, my choice of being alert. So in my awareness, I'm aware that with every thought I take, with every breath I have, that my feeling state is my domain. And yes, I'm just going to have a little pause here and say, one of our listeners has asked, don't we have to know what it is we want to know what to go for? Most definitely. It's like planning a trip. You've got to know where you end up before you even select a route to go there. That's why I said earlier that our values are the most important, because we do everything in life for the payoff that we think we're going to get from it. That's our motivator, pure and simple. We do everything for the payoff. And that payoff is, first off, often a feeling state. It's a thought that to us feels better than by not doing something. So we reactivate within ourselves what are our core values. If you haven't determined what your core values are, you are like a boat let loose in the ocean, in a wild storm. You're going to go all over the place. You're going to be knocked here and there. And, human beings, we started off earlier talking about, that it was alleged that, it's the stupid that are breeding bigger. So the larger families, so therefore it's a greater influence of this ridiculous mentality that somehow we think we have a right to harm others or hurt others. So, yes, that first value, there is even a code of ethics amongst criminals. We do have a code for being. We do have values for being. Whether we agree or disagree with another person's values is not for us to get all caught up into, because we don't have that level of influence into others' lives. We have a level of influence into our own. It's our own legacy that we leave, and those we are interacting with on a regular basis, those that are innocent, those that are young. My son saw this news, and the first thing he said to me was, "Mum, all these people agreed to come together at that time to remind us, why are we here? Are we actually living?" And I thought at 9 years of age, that was very astute for him to recognize the gift that we've been given in every tragedy is a reminder to us, am I actually living or am I existing? Am I just going through the motion? I'm here for a finite period of time, but once, I'm out of what I call my meat suit, or once I'm out of this body consciousness and awareness, my intelligence, my inner intelligence continues. It is always with me, and everything I've accrued on the outside doesn't come with me. However, everything I've accrued on the inside, that's permanently with me. So those states, that's why, again, that term losers fits so aptly, because those individuals that are criminals that have chosen an action that demonstrates that they're losers in life, they're losers in afterlife as well. They continue to be losers because they have not accrued what's real and what's of value, what travels with us all the time, that makes us bigger than our circumstances. They say that, how do you determine the size of a person? Well, you look at what it takes to upset them. A small person is upset by small things. When we haven't got our priorities set, when we haven't got our values set, these little things upset us. The acts, atrocious acts against humanity, are not little things. They do upset us. They upset us to our core. They hurt to the core. And it is a reminder. It is a reminder, have we got our path set? Remember the love. Reactivate it. We're not stuck where we're at. We're not stuck with what we've been, our past lives, our past experiences. They don't amount to what's going on today. That term losers, they've lost control of themselves. They've lost control to the extent that they can't even manage their own minds, because that's the only thing that each of us individually has power over. Those that can't demonstrate control of themselves are what I call the weakest amongst us. It's only the strong and powerful who can manage themselves in the face of adversity. Because let's be real here, everyone walking this planet experiences adversity at different times of their lives. Look at how many mothers there are in a premature ward that won't bring their babies home. Look at how many mothers don't even get to have that child despite wanting it. Look at how many parents that have lost their children through hostile circumstances and experiences against their will. Look at how many children that are born into violent and aggressive families. Adversity abounds around us. The good thing is most people don't go and reactivate that adversity outside of themselves. Most of us are more intelligent than that. Most of us have a level of awareness that we are expanding on to be aware that all our actions are connected. There is a connectivity that we can understand now today that 50 years ago we couldn't, thanks to the advent of technology. We can see that there are invisible influences that connect every single one of us. There aren't any accidents here. So it's only the strong that are powerful. That's how you separate the weak. It's self-management, and self-control is only for the strong. That's the bravest that maintain innocence amongst those losers. And that is what is called for as a value today, to be the bravest, to be the strongest, to demonstrate through every action, your ability to be kind, to be loving, to care. Now, one of my friends recently said to me, well, that's a good thing about me that I don't care. And I thought, well, again, we're always listening to ourselves. The first person we have to care about is ourselves. As we can demonstrate that care about ourselves, that I seek the higher path, I choose the higher path, and I pave the higher path, that's what those little ones looking up to us are quick to follow. Everything else, we can say it in jest, but our brain doesn't know a sense of humor, unfortunately. It takes us at our word, everything that we say. So as we're using a language and our young ones are using a lifeless language, they're repeating it. Oh, who gives a shit? I don't care. This attitude of apathy, it is more pervading than any disease, than any virus. And that is what we have power over. That is what we are responsible with, that we can't overlook our role in our everyday reality of every individual we interact with. The opportunity to give a smile if we have nothing else to give, that we always have. The opportunity to give a gift of appreciation, that we always have. There's no excuses for not otherwise. This is how we step up. This is how we are brave amidst the insanity that can appear to be constantly surrounding us. Everywhere in the world it's being experienced. The bombing in Bali, the bombing in Boston, in New York, in Paris, there have been attacks in Japan, in China, in Russia, just to name a few. We've seen these criminals that have driven vehicles into packed crowds. Again, these incidents, not to be scaremongering, but to realize, one expert came on television recently and said, the reality is your likelihood of being in an actual terrorist attack is the same likelihood as you being struck by lightning. Now, since I've made it over 50 years without being struck by lightning, I think my next 50 years is pretty good as well, not being amidst that level of terror. And yet I've been in environments where realistically I should have had much more harm befall me, but I haven't. The difference is I've chosen a pathway and I continue to pave it every day. Every action, every thought is a brick in that pavement, in that pathway towards what is wanted. Every time I pave a brick towards unwanted, I often become aware that I've paved that way when I'm confronted with it in my face. There will be always those who seek to prey as a fix or a hit on others. All bullies, terrorists, and losers have in common is that state of extreme weakness and lack of control, because it takes nothing to die, but it does take everything to live, and it takes everything and even more to live powerfully. That's what brings in our awareness, our actual conscious awareness. One question, don't you think that number may have changed these days? The number in relation to what? You might just update me on that and I can answer it more accurately for you. So it does take everything to live powerfully. It takes intelligence to collaborate in communities. It takes intelligence to unify in understanding of individuals. And it takes heart to be responsible and reactivate with pure positive intentions. Because, as I said, hurt people hurt people. And when we're in that moment, our brains go dead and we reactivate, often from a state of rage. Those statistics you gave about the lightning. Well, this was an expert comment that was just made on television yesterday, and that's what I thought I'd reshare it today. So I don't know how many people have been hit by lightning. I'm quite sure Google will have an answer for that. But again, I don't rely on everything that Google has to share. So I want to share how we keep the advantage in life. That's the importance of the program today. And for any other listeners that are just joining, you are listening to Rosie Pica on Until Now. And you can head on over to w4cy.com and join in the live chat if you have got questions. We have been talking about turning tragedy into triumph. And this occurs not just with gross tragedies, as has recently been experienced, that we've got worldwide news of the atrocity recently within Manchester in the UK. It also is for every experience in our life that is a tragedy, and there is an overwhelming level of events worldwide to individuals and people. What we have power over is not the circumstances themselves. What we have power over is what we do after the fact. And after the fact is where we get our advantage, our upper hand, to make this world the world we say we want to live in. And that's revere what it is that we want. It's remember the love of those that have experienced the unfortunate realities, them and their loved ones. Share their stories. Share the wonderful aspects of the legacy that they've left by having been here. Remember those that make our hearts feel good as opposed to those that made our hearts hurt. With the way, and I'm just reading another listener's comment, with the way people are acting out, don't you think there is a bigger chance to get hurt? I think that we have got more information about people acting out. People have always acted out. Look at our World War I, our World War II, our wars that are going on all around the world at this point in time with, the level of homelessness, the level of domestic violence. People are always acting out. The difference is that there is social media to share it much faster, so our awareness of it has increased, as opposed to, I think, and again, the numbers of people. So we're over 6 billion now. So obviously you increase the numbers. Common sense would say you increase the opportunity of people acting out and affecting others. We've got prisons full of people that act out. We have prisons full of what I call losers. They've lost their ability to control themselves. They've lost the ability to manage themselves. They've lost their ability to connect to community in a more purposeful and positive fashion. So we're not short of that on this planet. However, we have the opportunity, we reawaken ourselves, we remember and remind ourselves that we get to reactivate ourselves into what creates a better life for ourselves and those around us. That's what these are. I see them as awakenings, and we want to keep the advantage. So keep in mind, don't overthink it. Don't overtalk it. Don't overlive it. When initially, I remember back when the World Trade Center experienced those terrorist acts, we were glued to the television and immobile for about 5 days, myself and my friends. All we talked about, because it was such a shock, we had never in our lives experienced right in our face so close, something so personal. There are people that are living that reality day in, day out. But for myself, that was my first in my face, even though I experience, death, disaster, trauma on a much smaller scale regularly. I didn't have it so brutally in my face until that occasion. And that's the same with many other people, that once it's in your face, it can become all-consuming. The first time you deal with an angry person or an armed robber or an invader, that's all-consuming for the next days, weeks, maybe months, and for some people, years afterwards. That's not how we keep the advantage. That's pre-paving that path to more unwanted. That's where we start losing out on all that life has to offer, and we're the ones giving it away bit by bit, thought by thought, action by action. So that's why I say, don't overthink it, don't overtalk it, and don't overlive it, because what we choose to do is to think on our solutions, think on our community, think on our direct first line of influence that we have. How is it impacting them? How do I make this place a safe place for them? How do I have them awake and aware and engaged and able? It's in the moment. Be present in the moment. Get your head out of that mobile phone. Look around the environment that you've entered into. Be observant. What is normally around you? What is different on this occasion? We are asked to raise our level of awareness, because it's like when you walk into a house and the people that live there, even though no one's talking, straight away when there's an argument in the air. Even though there's silence, that silence speaks volumes. It's the same with places. If you raise your awareness to be present in the moment of the places that you're going to, it will be so obvious and apparent to you when there is a difference. And when it becomes obvious and apparent, if you have prepared yourself beforehand, you are better able to choose your actions in that moment of emergency. So that's why I say be aware when you go into places. Where is your entry point? Where's your exit point? How do the doors work? What other alternatives are there? Be aware if it comes to a point of defense, what have you got near you that you can utilize as some form of defense, as a block, as an obstruction, as an obstacle? It's changing our mindset. It's like, when I go and sit in a restaurant, even to this day, I still don't put my feet with both knees underneath the table. I'm always sitting sideways on a chair and my legs are poised in that position, ready to leap to in a second's notice. Lots of my friends will say to me, if ever there's an emergency, Rosie, you're who I want to be around. And it's because I've been trained for it for many, many years. It doesn't mean we have to look out and become little ninjas overnight. That's not living our life. We are born to be alive, and alive means just that. It's about being vital and vibrant. And as one listener has commented, is that being paranoid or prepared? Well, for me, it is over 30 plus years of training. So it's not paranoid. It's just called autopilot. And I'm on autopilot that I've always sat in rooms, with my back against the wall so that there is nothing that comes up from behind and takes me by surprise. This is just small points of that. It becomes autopilot when you do it for so long, you don't even recognize when you're doing it. It's actually my friends who pointed out to me that my body still has these mannerisms. It's not what I'm telling for the average listener. For the average listener going out about your day, it's to be aware and observant in your day of what are your values. Is your day lining up with your values? It's about enjoying your life for every moment that you do have here. None of us come in with a guarantee stamp that we're here for 100 years. We don't know. Some of us get, 1 week. Some of us get, 1 breath. Some of us get that 100 years. And, there's a whole variety and mix in between. What I want is for those that choose to take this time out and honour me by listening to what I have to share. I want to have the best information to honour you in return for that time, for that value, for that exchange. And part of that honour is recognising that we're all here but mere moments. And those moments really should be spent in a state of awareness, in a state of appreciation, in a state of accentuating all that makes you feel good. And in doing so, we reawaken ourselves. We are born to be alive. All that we know up until now. When we know better, we do better. So as we are becoming more aware of who and what is around us, we can note those obvious differences. Sometimes they're not so obvious differences. Sometimes it might be a feeling you have in your gut, a little bit of intuition. Again, it's not about being paranoid. It's about being aware and listening to yourself, your higher self, your inner self, whatever you want to call it. We're always being looked out for if we just learn to tune in and listen and be not caught up in that ebb and flow and that constant mix and rush and flurry and get here, do this, got to be there, I haven't got that, all that haste, that's a life that's almost wasted because we're not present. We're not aware. We're not taking that opportunity to be engaged, to really be involved, to really listen to the person who is talking to us. What are they saying? Are they letting us know that they're so disillusioned with life? Are they letting us know that they really want to hurt a lot of people? Are they letting us know that they really want to get attention? These people aren't strangers amongst us. They're people living beside us. They're the next door neighbours. They're the people that we might see on a daily basis. They're someone we went to school with. They exist every day up until that point that they became a loser and they lost it. So let's raise our awareness. Let's raise our awareness to not be that bully at school. That horrible individual that was so weak and preyed on other people in order to make themselves feel better. Let's be the brave. Let's be the strong. Let's remember those innocent and add value to that legacy of their lives with our lives. We are creating this world moment by moment of the world that we say we want to live in. So that's part of being awake. How is your influence working for you? Are you a toxic influence to other people? Are you overliving it, overthinking it, over dramatizing it, running it around? Or are you a tonic? Are you coming up with solutions? Are you coming up with ideas? Are you making people, helping them to realign with their values, to feel safe and secure, to feel at peace in the moment? As you can feel peace in the moment, that moment can extend to another moment. And as that moment extends to another moment, it's like a chain. It's like a link of same connects to same. But we're the ones that choose that link or the chink. Which is it going to be? So again, are we able? So we're aware, we're awake. Now we want to be able. We want to be able to make a difference that matters, and a difference that matters not just for a minute, a difference that matters to our mortality, a difference that matters forever after. And that difference that matters is all what accrues with these values on the inside. It's what lets us sleep good at night, that we can go to bed and we know, I've got a gentleman up here, let me know, he's been building and renovating a house for a few days. And he's been sharing it, all along the line of all what he's been renovating. And at the last minute, he decided to invite some foreign students who are disengaged, disillusioned, uninvolved and despised into this home life. And he thought, and this guy is a big dude, like he's about 6'4", 6'5", and nearly as wide. And he's quite intimidating to look at. And he's not always been on the right side of the law. He's been a bit of both. And he's decided to make this house a haven for those individuals so that they can get the influence of a mother, of a father that cares about you enough to give you boundaries, that cares about you, that to give you limits in life, to know just go this far and any further it's not acceptable, that is engaged enough to instruct you in other activities, be it woodworking, be it horticulture, be it being actively involved with animals, being, anything, just something that says I'm here with you and I care enough about you to help you to learn something, a skill for life. Now, as he didn't have to do this. He has no monetary reward in order to do this. This is an internal reward that he's put it out there and is taking these kids in to. That's his little bit of legacy. His children, it doesn't have. So this is his ability to give back to his community that these kids then go out into and influence others and know that there are people who do care. There are people that realise that we all do matter. And the first one we got to start saying is, I do care about me and I do care about others. And as I do care, I'm actively involved and engaged in today. And in doing that, I'm feeling good about the choices that I've made. And as I feel good about the choices that I've made, I'm learning to take life a lot lighter. And my humour is not satirical. It's not putting me down. It's not running others down. It's not creating division. It's not earning brownie points by, I don't take myself seriously, so therefore no one else has to. It's about knowing that I don't have to take myself seriously because I know that I am light. I know that I am forevermore, and I know that I'm leaving a legacy that matters more than a minute. It matters for my lifetime and every lifetime thereafter. So be active in helping those in need. This is how we keep that advantage. So as I said, life's greatest tragedy is those who die without ever having truly lived. They are the losers. It's a precious gift, this life, and it's a legacy that we live and we leave every single day. So think today on all the ways you contribute with awareness, with being awake and able in this world, that we say we want to live in. It's up to us to be a better human and to breed better humans. That's how we go beyond what's been before. We go beyond what we've always thought before, and we go beyond the way we've always fought before. It's not a time for fighting. It's a time for living. It's a time for life. So until next week, you've been listening to Rosie Picar on Until Now, and I want to share Esther Hicks' final comment to take away, which is that whenever I am feeling good, I am attracting good. So today is now, well, it's closing for those in America, but for those in Australia and other places that the day awaits, it's your day to be attracting your good. Be aware, be awake, be able. Till next week. For more inspiration, go to www.kickbutt with one T, not two T's, at someone else's site, .com.au, because yes, I am Australian. Until then, much love to you all.